podcast. I'm joined today by my good friend Demian Borba. We met in the Adobe XD days where we did training together, and he's now the founder of Pactto, an app that lets you record and share video feedback very fast. This works on the mobile phone, the iPad, and also on the desktop computer. So let's jump right in. All right, so I'm here with my friend Demian Borba. He's the founder of Pactto.
Hey guys.
I've also worked with him in the Adobe days, working on Adobe XD. A lot of fun there. So Demian has been responsible for helping shape and build some great products throughout Adobe. You've also worked with Intuit. And currently right now you're full-time spending a focus on a new startup, Pactto, kind of taking everything that you've learned in the enterprise world, in the Adobe world, and now putting that all together into one product. So maybe before we start with Pactto and your product, what was your journey like, or what led you to Adobe in the first place?
Oh man, yeah, I'm a first-time founder at 40 years old. So it's like I'm 43 right now having my first startup. But it took me 20 years, 10 years of agencies and 10 years of corporate to start the startup. So I feel like really blessed to have the opportunity to do this now. I ended up at Adobe because during my agency days, the first 10 years of my career, I was doing a ton of Flash work. I don't know if you remember Adobe Flash, and I knew everything about Flash. Like I was like part of the community, I was doing events. At one point, for 4 years in a row, I organized a conference called Adobe Camp, and like 1,000 people, it was super fun. And then I ended up knowing a lot of the Adobe guys. So after I left the agency world to join BlackBerry as a developer advocate in 2012, then later I joined PayPal also as a developer advocate. I was kind of tired of like traveling that much, and then I was like, oh, maybe I can find an opportunity at Adobe. And then at that time, my connections of the Adobe Camp world, one of the guys there who now is an investor on Pactto, which it's crazy, like he said they were building this new thing. No one knew what it was. Like even me, like I didn't know what I was getting into. And I joined the XD team as a product manager when the team had around like 30 people. So it was super small. And when I left 6 years later, the team was close to 500. And then you were there, still there, like helping and collaborating. But that's how I connected the dots. It was conference to being in San Francisco at the right time and knowing people that were there at Adobe that were needing someone with my background.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I do a lot of enterprise training with Adobe, and it started in 2019 where Demian reached out to me on Twitter then at the time. Reached out to me. I've seen a lot of his videos. He's done a lot of video work, kind of presenting new features and new products within Adobe and XD, so you're already kind of famous at the time. So to get that DM from Twitter from you was really cool to be a part of that. So we started along that journey through there. But as far as your journey, do you see a lot of things in your journey that serve as puzzle pieces of like,
100%.
It's like, well, why am I learning this, or why am I doing this? And now that you're in the startup
100%.
world, you're just like all that collection of things that you needed.
Yeah, I feel like relationships are everything, right? The tech industry is so small, so foster and take really good care of your relationships, because it is a very small world. Like everyone knows each other, and yeah, if you can preserve that. The connections that I make now started 10 years ago, and it's really connecting the dots, yeah.
But as far as, the knowledge that you gained too, the knowledge from your path through Adobe and BlackBerry, some of the things that you gained on your journey of solving challenges and stuff like that.
100%.
Like, you're putting that all into Pactto right now.
Yes, 100%. Now I feel like I'm really ready, like 20 years later. And it's very true. The more you observe like the challenges, what works, what doesn't work, and it's just a collection of lessons learned. Like I had awesome managers, I had horrible managers, so I know what to do, what not to do, what's important. We're all here for like the marathon, it's not for the short-term sprint. So yeah, just preserve your connections, be nice, be kind, because you never know when, like, in the future you'll need that connection.
For sure. So what is Pactto?
Pactto is a tool that focuses on removing or replacing typing in feedback. So nowadays, a lot of people, whenever they have to review a website, review a video, review like some sort of design, they type. Like normally they go to Frame.io, they go to, I don't know, Vimeo review, and they type the feedback. On Frame X, change this. On Frame Y, change that. And that translation of thought from thought to text, a lot of translation is lost. A lot of detail, a lot of fidelity is lost. So we want to fix that. Pactto is there to capture the human aspect of feedback. So all of your visual signs, your verbal signs, your drawings, like, oh, I want to change this, I want to change that. As a creative, I change my mind all the time. It's not linear. I start with one thinking, then I evolve it to something much, much better. So we want to capture all that. So instead of typing the feedback, you just say it to Pactto on the computer, on the phone or tablet, and we capture all that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And there's going to be a separate review that goes over what Pactto is and how you would use it. But I think if I were to explain it just as a user too, really like what you said there. And really for me, all of our team, it's really beneficial to have something where you have certain thoughts or ideas. So if you have, let's say you're just working with team members that just ask for quick feedback on something that you look at and you say, how am I going to give this? Or how am I going to capture that just in one comment? But being able to just tap record on your phone or your tablet or on your computer and say, let me think through this for a little bit. And even them seeing the way that you're thinking through it helps them connect with that feedback a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. When we were doing the research for Pactto and I was interviewing a lot of creatives, and I was thinking maybe we can remove the silence, maybe we can remove the filler words, but then very quickly I realized that creatives need that. That's part of the feedback. We cannot remove that. That's part of the evolution of thinking. So we decided to keep it.
And what I have found is when I go through that process and they're going through that journey with me, instead of me just concluding and giving a comment to say, add this here, sometimes giving that comment and them not seeing the reason or the why or understanding that, they will implement that change at 80% or something, and we still have to keep going back and forth. It loses time. But when they see that, they buy into it. And if they have doubts on your comments, they could see in a video, they can see that journey to say, you know, he's thought through this. I think this is really good. And so it's really awesome. The other thing that I love about Pactto is the ability to transcribe things in real time. So even anything with notes, instead of having to rapidly write down exactly any meetings that you have or anything, just knowing that you can be there in the moment in certain meetings and knowing that you can have every word for word transcribed, that you can bring that in. And even the prompts that you have to say, turn this into action items for my team to complete and assign them to the people mentioned.
Yeah. By default, the minute you finish a review, and all the processing takes place locally, right? So all the processing is local. So we really value privacy. And only when you want to share with others, you can create a web link. And when we create a web link with Pactto, with your recording, we do transcriptions, we do action items. So you use AI to create action items from you. But if you don't want action items, let's say you want a blog post or you want 3 options for a tweet, then you can say, Pactto, instead of action items, I want this. And then it gives you that. So I'm writing blog posts. I'm composing emails. The other day, I needed to send this very formal email to as a proposal, and I was like tired. It was late at night. I just used my phone on Pactto. I want to send this and that. Maybe add this, maybe add that. And at the end, instead of action items, I told Pactto, give me an email to this person using these sections, and then he created the email based on me venting that information.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what led you to start Pactto? So what was the aha moment of like, this is what's needed? I'm going to quit the corporate life, because there's got to be a lot of risk, and to drop everything that I'm sure with your other opportunities, you were making good money, you were secure.
Oh, 100%.
You have this idea. Talk to us about the idea and when you decided it's worth the risk.
Yeah, I feel like for 2 years it was a side project when I was working at Intuit, doing design system work. But then in March of last year, after a lot of thinking, I decided to quit. So I went full time almost a year ago, and it was a very hard decision. But I knew that it was pretty much the last chance. Like, I can stay safe in corporate and like have all these things and money and financial stability, but I was bored. I was frustrated. There was nothing really new. It was like the same challenges all over again. And I saw this massive opportunity. Loom was out there doing great, amazing product. Frame.io was out there doing great, amazing product. And I really feel like, look at how many banks are out there. Look how many, I don't know, social media apps are out there. There's so many options for others to contribute to that industry. And I had 20 years of creative experience. Like, maybe this is my shot to bring this knowledge, knowing the creative person so well for 20 years, to try to do more than what Loom is doing, to do more what Frame.io is doing. And with AI, that was the perfect time. I was like, let's go. And we're raising for the first time. It's almost completed, 80% completed.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
so
it's
that year before you. So a few things. The whole year before you started raising, did you start off, was it just you? And how did you grow your team?
Yeah, the team was very small. It was me and another guy. And we started iterating on a couple prototypes. Initially, it was made for sports, which is funny. I used to surf.
Surfing,
yeah, right? And then now the best coaches in the world surf coaches in the world use Pactto. But the opportunity is really with creatives. The passion, the focus is really with creatives. So we started with a small team, validating, getting more customers, Now we still have a small team. We have 8 people full-time and a couple of advisors that are helping us. But yeah, it started small. I hope it continues small. Like, I don't want to grow too big too fast. We're building, we're navigating this world of AI with all the excitement and all the opportunities. We can test new models all the time. We're playing with all these different, for transcriptions, we use one model combined with another model, and for action items, very soon we'll be able to act on the action items and generate new videos, generate new images based on the feedback. So there's so much we can do. Yeah.
So just Gen AI built into the...
Imagine you review a website and you say, I want this header text bigger. It just gets bigger right in front of your eyes. So you want to do that. And we're super close to that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. And maybe speak to your... Do you have anything... Maybe you can't speak to this, but... anything in the roadmap as far as like integration? There's a lot of things that I use, like Trello or Asana, things that for sure, like we have very manual process where we'll create a video and then we'll go in there, and even if we use AI to transcribe, we'll have to copy and paste that into something to create a master plan.
Yeah.
Are there any?
Yes, we have an integration with Slack already out. So from Slack, you can request a review on a video link or image or PDF, and then from Slack you launch. Anyone seeing that can click and launch Pactto, make the review, and then it goes back to Slack. So that round trip is like really solved, all locally, super fast. Next, we started. One of the things I hated the most as a PM, as a product manager, was filing bugs, because I had to type all these blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now with Pactto, I can record the bug, I just film the bug. And then I can, instead of creating action items, I can say, create a bug report using this template. So it uses that template to create the bug report, and I just use it, send it to Jira or any other place. Next step is to automatically send it to Jira, send it to Linear. So you don't have to even like copy and paste. It already goes there. And if we do a good job, we know the video, we have the context about the bug, we know the bug report. If we have context, if we have access to the code, AI can fix the bug, or at least try fixing the bug.
That's really awesome. And maybe to speak to my audience a little bit, I have different segments of my audience, and a lot of them, you know, are junior designers, or so they're learning Adobe XD or Figma or Photoshop, things like this for the first time. One of the things that you have when you go down this journey is now when you have certain ideas, you have the tools or the skill sets to shape those things out. And so one of the things that I thought was intriguing and might be of value for the audience is to understand, just like Demian, and there's a startup that I'm working on too, the one thing that allows you to go leaps and bounds is if you do have that idea and you validate it or you test it out yourself, like you have within yourself to quickly design and prototype and test within here. And so with these new tools that you're learning within some of these app design or software design, you can take that and just tease out what is my idea and what would that look like, even in a clickable prototype. And it's something like even within 8 hours of work, you can get something so valuable.
Oh yeah.
And so from the point of you having the idea of Pactto to the point of you having something that was clickable to test out, what was that time span like and what did that journey look like?
Yeah, that was quick. That was probably a week or two to test with the first user. But nowadays, that was before AI, right? That was almost a little over 2 years ago. Now I feel it's a lot faster. I can build websites in minutes, right? Just go to ChatGPT or Claude and just enter your intention there and it creates the code for you. So it's even faster. And I feel like the faster you can test ideas, the better results you get. Because as founders, we all have our narrative. It's like we think this is how people will use it, and my narrative tells me like this is awesome and blah blah blah, but that's not true, right? You have to test with real people as soon as possible.
For sure. So in my startup, the one that we're working on right now, I have found that before I've designed and prototyped, when I was talking about it, it took between 1 and 2 hours to you're explaining something, and the people you're explaining it to is like, is it this, is it this, is it this, and they're looking, they're trying to grasp onto what you're talking about, and they're very blind in a sense, but it's quite funny because I can spend that time just designing something very quickly in Figma and prototyping, and I've even gone to the same people and say, here it is, and I click through like 3 screens and they're like, I had no idea this is what it was. And so the challenge that you have conveying your ideas from words, but putting it into something tangible and something that they can see when you speak to it, there's something there, is very, very valuable. And we've done design challenges even with college students where we've given them 90 minutes to like come up with an idea between 4 of you, come up with a design and a prototype. It's pretty interesting to see what they can do and hopefully unlock for them to say, let's really get in there and test something and do it. But did you have that same journey, like trying to describe your idea to someone?
Oh, all the time, even before the startup, right? Like, you gotta make people see what's in your head, right? It's your narrative that's different than what, and that's why Pactto is so important, because we wanna make sure that people can understand what you mean, like what's in your head. If you just send a big email with all the changes, it's different than sending like you talking about the changing, showing where the changes are, clear list of action items. So yeah, it's true since I started my career. So the more you can put artifacts, tangible artifacts in front of people, the better, the easier it will get.
So let me give you a challenge that a lot of people don't know that they're going to face. When you have an idea, let's say that idea really to come to fruition is going to be $1 million to develop. So you have something that there's $1 million in the way from the 10 developers that you need and the 1 year of development and everything. And so some people think, I've got this idea, I'm going to raise $1 million, and it just never happens like that. And so for me specifically, what kind of happens is you have something that you don't know what it's going to cost until you do. You plan some things out and you can test. But if it's going to cost $1 million, what are some of the things that you can do to kind of bootstrap your way to validation or credibility, to raise and partner to get to that level, so that you don't feel like you have to take it all at once?
I would test that right off the bat, like, and you don't have to build the actual software to test the idea, right? I heard a podcast the other day. The guy was saying that a student came to him saying they had this brilliant idea about renting used clothes to friends, and then it will cost $1 million to build the marketplace and catalog everything, and it just keep like adding and adding complexity. And then this guy said, just post a piece of paper outside of your dorm room saying, do you want to rent my clothes? Knock. If someone knocks, that's validation, right? No one did. So that idea would probably never work as well. So like, there are ways of physically testing your ideas fast before getting into like $1 million investment and all that.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. I actually took that approach. So the startup that we're working on is with me and my best friend Garrett Jenkins, and when we were starting with this, I told him I don't want to use $1 of our developers' time, because I run an agency, and I said I think we can validate this just by piecing some things together. And so to validate our idea, we just used a Squarespace website for $20.
Nice.
We used like Airtable for $20, and we created a database through there. But we built it to where it was very limited. It wasn't exactly what we were wanting, but it could be formed to serve as that validation, to say, is anyone going to use this? And the reason I had that idea is one of the things that has always been inspiring to me is the Design Sprint book, where they talk about...
Oh, that's true, yeah.
At the very start of that book,
cheap tests, yeah.
they talk about... So in my hotel right now, they have one of those robots that come to your door and knock on it. Pretty cool robot, but it's probably costed billions in R&D. And you think about having to really prototype something at that level would cost hundreds of millions of dollars to do that. But they actually, within 5 days or 6 days, they validated that. And basically what they said is, we're going to get a garbage can, we're going to get an RC car and put underneath the garbage can, and we're going to get a little iPad screen and tape it to the garbage can. And they even did like a PowerPoint presentation thing with like blinking eyes and some noises, but they kind of faked it all together. And their question was, were guests going to be delighted or scared to have a robot come in and deliver them a toothbrush? And so there was like a guy behind the bushes with the RC car going through, but they did that, and the guests that opened up the door were like, oh honey, look at this, this is so nice. And
you created an emotional reaction.
Validation was there instantly. And then, the market validation for the hotels, I'm sure, is, the human resources and the staff having to do that, or automating things, was a good value proposition for them. But those are things like I think in a startup world, consider how you can get something out quick, test and do that, because even doing that can serve as valuable components if you ever do go into your phases of funding and rounds.
Man, it's a journey. It's hard. And first of all, it is hard, but it's not sexy hard, fun hard. It's ugly hard.
Yeah,
right?
It's tears involved.
Yeah, it's like it's brutally hard. It's not for everyone. It's like that Nike commercial. Like, winning is not for everyone. Like in a good way, you gotta be really decided to do this, because if you just half decided, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt.
You have 99% doubters on day one, and on day 30 you have 95% doubters. And you look at it and you're like, and sometimes a year later they're like, all right, he's on to something.
Yes.
And it's fair to doubt, because there are so many ideas that tank, but there's so many that, just because somebody can't see it doesn't mean it's not a valid product.
Yeah, and also it takes time, right? It's not something that happens overnight.
And it's up if you believe in it enough, you do have to validate if you can't, so for example, if you try something like this and nobody's using it, either it's a bad product or you've implemented it, there's a different implementation of it, or it's buggy. But there's a few reasons. But so one thing is, if your users aren't using it, don't be stubborn and try to still shove it down to them, right? But as they're using it, if you find a blocker, fix it or change it or try something else and push through. But you will find, and I've seen this even with people who I've talked to with my startup, is on day one they're like, everybody's like, yeah, it's gonna be good, but their level of belief is like, it's hard to invest in something like that. But then you see on day 30, as you're building that out, they're like, whoa, this really is something.
Yeah,
each time they look at it like,
if you like, one of the goals that I have with Pactto is, now that we're in the very beginning, the quality level that creatives want is super high, right? So it is harder to build software for creatives. Mm-hmm. It's like a game, it takes years. So just plan well to not die, right? Like if you can survive the long run, it's not like 1 year, it's 2, 3, 4 years before things start to happen, right? If you plan for that long, that's my plan. My goal is to not die, keep iterating, keep meeting amazing people like you, collecting that feedback, iterating on your needs, and if it doesn't work, at least I would know that we did everything possible to make it work.
Absolutely. So for those of you that want to try Pactto, you can go to Pactto.com. I'll leave that on the screen and also in a link in the description too. Again, it's just an awesome screen recording tool for any kind of feedback that you want. Primarily the use case is for reviewing video and sports, but you can use this literally for anything, for the meetings that you have, for anything that you'd like to record. There's transcription in there, but I encourage you to try this out. Even if you are in the design community and wanting to give feedback or ask for feedback, it's a good way to even have your portfolio or something and talk through it and send it to a mentor or send something to a mentee as well. So visit Pactto.com. It's free to start out and try, right?
Yes, free. Loom is 5 minutes as a limit for the free. We have 10 minutes for free reviews. Awesome. There's no quantity limit. It's how many videos you want, and just keep testing it if you can and share feedback.
And you're growing rapidly and paying users right now.
Yes, fighting the battle, yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yes.
And you're going to be on your way to Brazil now to present in one of the video conferences,
Yes,
right?
we're doing a booth talk and sponsor this big film conference next week in Brazil.
That's really awesome. Well, congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much, Caleb.
That's awesome.
Thank you.